It's said to have been the largest natural disaster this century. The Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami in 2004 killed more than 230,000 people across Asia, including Indonesia, Thailand and Sri Lanka. The disaster triggered one of the greatest humanitarian relief efforts in history. In the aftermath, international governments and aid organizations worked to rebuild affected communities and strengthen emergency systems. I'm Fawzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we look at the regional rebuilding efforts and ask if Asia is better prepared to deal with natural disasters. But first, we visit Indonesia's Aceh province to see just what changes the tsunami has brought in the last 5 years.
Sedih-sedih nyo kisah sedih sinyak putih gleh mepisah ngon ma jinohanale bohate intan kan co pulang sajan ibuna imata.
December 26, 2004 is immortalized in an Achenese song. This Indonesian province bore the brunt of the disaster, which took many by surprise and left some 170,000 people dead or missing and 500,000 others homeless. But 5 years on, Aceh is rising from the ruins. With billions of dollars in aid, new roads, bridges, homes and lives are slowly being rebuilt. It seems lessons have been learned and Aceh is better prepared to deal with natural disasters. Evacuation drills and medical training are a regular occurrence in all schools now. The local government has set up clear evacuation routes and sites in the neighborhoods. Donation funds help build some 140,000 houses for those who lost their homes. But for a few Achenese, a new beginning still seems far away. These residents of Banda Aceh are angry they are still living in temporary shelters. They claim the government's inefficient bureaucracy and corruption stand in their way of acquiring new homes. Among them is Yulianto, who lost his pregnant wife and 2 young children in the tsunami. He told me he lives in this makeshift wooden longhouse with his new wife and 12 other families. His income as a fisherman doesn't allow him to buy a new house, so he is dependent on the government.
Bermasalah semua, Kak. Yang contohnya 20 orang bermasalah.
There were 20 of us who were given keys to new houses. But when we got there, we found there were already people living inside those houses. But we had the keys. When we asked the people, they said the government had given them the house. How can that be? Our names were already listed for those houses, but they were already occupied.
The local government admits administrative mistakes have been made in the allocation of accommodation, but verifying real victims has also been a difficult task.
Ada lebih kurang sekitar.
We estimate there are still some 3,000 people who need to be housed. We still don't know the exact number because their identification papers were destroyed in the tsunami. We need to be very careful when identifying the real victims. We are trying to resolve the squatter issue, but without proper identity papers, it will take a long time.
Most issues in Aceh are further compounded by the region's previous political troubles. The images of the tsunami devastation commanded global attention. It was almost as if the world forgot Aceh had been struggling with a 30-year civil war. The international aid that poured in for the tsunami victims caused much resentment amongst those displaced by the previous conflict. Now, some are warning that discontent may disrupt Aceh's peace.
Suatu hari mungkin ini bisa jadi konflik baru.
One day, this will become the new conflict that will tear apart our society. Those affected by the war are the responsibility of the Aceh Reintegration Agency. They attend to the housing and welfare of the post-conflict victims. But the tsunami victims receive better accommodation and funding. So of course those who lost everything in the war feel they are being sidelined. At some point, they may take up arms again out of frustration.
But the local government dismisses the so-called rising tensions, preferring to ride the wave of developmental aid. The province's leaders are convinced the population's basic needs have been met, and now it is time to focus on economic development.
The most important form of aid now is technical assistance in building the government's capacity. We need help to build infrastructure that can help accelerate the economy in the long term. Aceh is abundant in natural resources like cocoa, nilam oil, corn, fish and coffee. But we still lack the expertise in the processing industry. We need to develop the human capital. That's the sort of aid we need now.
Bak sabah urok dua bunga.
In the span of 5 years, Aceh has gone from a war-torn province to one focused on economic progress. Many still wonder if the natural disaster was a blessing or a curse. Only Aceh's future generations will be able to decide. This week, 101 East comes to you from Indonesia's Aceh province as we mark the 5th anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami. Now, while Aceh bore the brunt of the natural disaster, its effects were felt right across the region. Joining us now is Robert Macaro from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies and Danny Hillman from the Indonesian Institute of Sciences. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. Danny, after the Indian Ocean tsunami, a major warning system was set up. Now, it's a network that includes regions, countries around the region. Right. But was the money worth it in terms of setting up this system? After all, a tsunami comes and affects this region once in, say, 200 years. What about the natural disasters that are more frequent in this region?
Yeah, I think the system, the tsunami early warning system, is not just for the tsunami, but also for the earthquake also, and for the entire region, Indonesia, not just for Aceh. And it's not just for the warning, but we could use also for the science to identify the source and the possible hazard and risk to the region. So I think it's worth it.
You think it's worth it?
Yeah.
What about you, Bob? Do you think the money was well spent on the Indian Ocean warning system?
I think so. It's a very active seismic region, and I think the money is well spent. I mean, considering, 170,000 people killed in Aceh, another 100,000 missing. I mean, I think it's crucial that next time we reduce that loss of life down to a bare minimum.
But the warning system doesn't just include the departments, shall we say, government departments. It filters right down. There are a lot of levels to it. But is the information for preparedness, is it getting down to the ground level where lives are at stake?
It has to start at ground level or community level. I mean, the efforts of the government, of the Red Cross and other organisations is at community level, making communities safer, training community to respond, but also to recognise the signs themselves. Now we have mobile phones nearly in every village in the country or throughout the region. It's got to be both ways. It's got to be bottom up and it's got to be top down.
Danny, are you happy that the information is filtering down to the ground?
Yeah, that's the challenge because on the region that's affected by the earthquake, where the shake occurred, it could cripple the systems, like the cell phone or the telephone. That's a challenge. So it's not easy to get down the information from the top down to the people, right? But as Bob said, we shouldn't depend entirely to the system. we have to educate people, and they should learn how to like read the nature. I mean, the shake of the earthquake itself is a warning. It's a natural warning. So when people feel the shake, so and they live in the near to the coast, and there are other signs that they could learn, so they could just learn from that. So when the like high-tech system fail, but the natural system still there.
And I think we have to build on the traditional knowledge while coming in with expert to bring in the latest scientific knowledge. You need the two coming together.
We'll hold that thought for just a moment. We're going to take a very quick break, but when we come back, we'll have more on Asia's preparedness for natural disasters. Stay with 101 East.